You're listening to a special episode of the Everything Life Coaching Podcast, Coaching Mastery with Noelle Cordeau, CEO of Lumia. Explore transformative coaching concepts, tried and true methodologies, and powerful insights from the front lines of the professional coaching field. Whether you're an established coach seeking fresh perspectives or looking to begin your coach training education, welcome to your one-stop resource for all things life coaching. This is Coaching Mastery.
Good morning, everyone. Noelle here. Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. And today I'm going to take on a really personal topic, which is embodiment and the way that we view and see and hold our bodies as it relates to both coaching and positive psychology. And the story of why this topic is coming up for me today is really quite autobiographical. And so I'd like to share with you who I was when I first started coaching and who I became through this work. And then we can take a deep dive into the wonderful, juicy science that supports anyone who wishes to get into this discipline. So, first up, it's important for me to share with you that for a very long time, since I was quite a little girl, I suffered from eating disorders. Eating disorders in a very real sense: anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, and body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is especially interesting because it really limits one's capacity to see and experience one's body in real and present time. And so for me, what I experienced in the way that these illnesses manifested was disembodiment, being detached from my body and having my body be something truly separate from me that was meant to be consumed by others or approved by others or approved by society. And I held myself as separate from my body for a really, really long time. When I got into the space of coaching, I didn't quite understand my subconscious drives and motivations, but this was the area of my obsession. This was the nut that I wanted to crack. How can folks who experience the same things that I was experiencing feel better? And when I started out on that path, I had ideas around thinness and physical health and weight loss that I no longer hold. And so I started out thinking, okay, I can do weight loss for women. And then as I got onto that path and started to explore it, it felt really icky, and I didn't want to go that route. That was during a period of time when I was exploring health coaching as a niche and looking at all sorts of different health coaching programs. I then discovered general coaching, ICF, the International Coaching Federation, and that felt like a better fit for me because it was about the art and science of coaching itself and gave me a way to understand the science that I loved of applied positive psychology, alongside of the art and science of coaching. And so with a generalist credential, you are able to expand your niche as many times as you want to, and your niche can morph and grow with you. So what happened for me is I moved from wanting to coach women through weight loss to wanting to coach women on body confidence. And this is where I started to understand the relationship between positive psychology and the body. Barbara Fredrickson, in 2006, wrote a paper called Objectification Theory. And this paper changed my life. The premise is that between ages 7 and 11, women and girls begin to understand, just as I shared earlier, that their bodies are not their own. Their bodies are the places where they live. Their bodies are the places that they inhabit. But the body itself is also put forth for public consumption. And alongside that aspect of consumption, there are two things that come up: appraisal and threat. Is my body pleasing to those around me? Is my body being threatened by those around me? That is what almost all female-bodied people experience and begin to understand between ages 7 and 11. What this does very specifically is interrupts our capacity to experience flow states. And when I say "are," I mean female-bodied people between ages 7 and 11. These are key developmental times for developing intellect, curiosity, genius, friendships. And when you are constantly in a position where you are blocked from experiencing flow and joy in these ways, because you are switching back and forth to your awareness. Am I experiencing appraisal? Is my body pleasing? Am I experiencing threat? Is my body under threat? You cannot fully move into flow states. Wow. The whole world began to make sense to me, as did the weight of social construction that accompanies so many of the ideas that we hold about our bodies. I began to understand that people, not just women and girls, but all people experience their bodies according to the social construction of the lives that they live, their families of origin, the color of their skin, their communities, the world at large. There are so many rules that have been set forth about how we should feel and relate to our bodies that it causes dysphoria when we turn to this idea of appraisal and threat. When I work with clients in this space, bringing awareness to the fore of these facts is really important, because awareness allows people to see how it is in their lives. And once we have an understanding of how things are and the roots and tentacles from the past that might be wrapping around us in unhealthy ways get really sorted out from that position, we can begin to move into a space of asking, well, what else is there? What else exists? And what do I want for myself differently as I move forward into this space? And that is where I landed in terms of my own coaching practice, is helping people to understand what happened in my life. What are the social constructions that have limited me? What else is there? And where do I want to go now? And I do this work not just around body, though I certainly do, and I really enjoy it, but I do this work around all aspects of intimate being, from intimacy to relationships to the deep questions of career and identity, and help people move to a position of freedom. The science that backs this work is absolutely gorgeous. And I'd like to share some of it with you today to give you a lens into who I am now and the growth that has taken place. And I also want to give you permission as coaches to grow and change and stretch as much as you want to, knowing that when I first started out on this journey almost 16 years ago, I was in a very different mental state of health, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And I was in a very different position of understanding the world around me and my relationship to it. And so I'm not mad at my younger self for once having focused on weight loss as a focus, though I no longer do. And I'm really proud of myself for having grown to the position that I have, where I'm now thinking fully about embodiment and all that it has to offer us as humans. So with that invitation, let's dive in. We are bound to our bodies like an oyster is to a shell. This is Plato's quote. And I love this quote to set the stage for where we're going, because it's true. We have a soul, we have an intellect, and we have a body that we inhabit. Every single one of us does. And our body, our outside, what we look like, our different levels of ability are random. Positive psychology gives us a couple of different ways to understand well-being inside of our bodies. Kate Heffron is one of my favorite researchers. She works at the University of East London, and she has divided their two general perspectives for understanding the body. Hedonic. This defines well-being in terms of pleasure, attainment, and pain avoidance. And then there is a second piece, which is eudaimonic, which focuses on meaning and self-realization and the degree to which a person is fully functioning. I like to think of these two boxes as pleasure and contentment. Hedonic is pleasure, attainment, and avoidance of pain, and eudaimonic is self-realization, functioning, meaning. And I like to think of that as the deeper cut of contentment. So understanding these two pieces is really important because they are truly foundational for every single person who has a body and who has a life. How do we understand them? Well, Heffron has another great theory on flourishing that breaks the components for flourishing down into three specific places: achievement, contentment, and hedonic. Achievement is mental and physical. Contentment is that self-realization, the degree to which we're functioning, being able to enjoy a hot shower, being able to enjoy a cup of coffee. And then hedonic is pleasure. Hedonic is fleeting, but those little doses of fleeting pleasure make up 1/3 of our capacity for flourishing. And contentment is another full third of our capacity for flourishing. And then achievement, physical and mental, is 1/3 as well. Now, in American life especially, most people spend most of their time focusing just on the bucket of achievement, which is physical and mental, and they leave out self-realization, the degree to which we're functioning, how we're feeling on the inside with those little bubbles of contentment, and then, of course, hedonic, which is pleasure. When I work with clients on this stuff, it is often awe-inspiring to realize that creating space in your life to focus on contentment and pleasure makes up 2/3 of your capacity to reach a state of flourishing. And my God, that is a hell of a blind spot if we don't take the time to address it and understand it. The way that we can think about this, bringing our bodies into the fore, is one of the foundations of that contentment, that deeper cut of happiness. And this includes how we treat it, how we move it, how we soothe our bodies, how we feed our bodies, how we dress our bodies, how we decorate them, and how we connect to the items that we use to adorn ourselves. Next, let's talk a little bit about embodiment and awareness. So, embodiment is defined as an awareness of and responsiveness to bodily sensations. These are also thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are grounded in sensory experiences and bodily states. This is an area where when we're thinking about, well, how do I actually cultivate that big 1/3 piece of contentment? It really comes down to being able to tune in, sink into, and recognize your sensory experiences. Something that's coming out of a lot of the current literature on where the wellness marketplace is going is very much focused on sensory experiences. I sat for a seminar on how sensory experiences are beginning to move into spas, wellness centers, and even places like automobile design. It was new to me to learn that our senses compete with each other to rise to the top. And so if we're looking to perhaps limit psychological pain, one of the things that we can do is to dig into our sensory experiences and bodily states. This could look like taking a walk and really focusing with intention on the colors of the leaves, or the feeling of the sunshine on your skin, or the sounds that you hear, and allowing each sense one by one to come to the fore to give you a full embodied experience that taps into other aspects of your reality that you may not have considered, because we're so in our heads, we're so ruminating, we're so focused on achievement, physical and mental, that we forget that the full experience of living our lives also includes the feeling of sunlight on our body, the feeling of wind, the sounds of children playing in a park, and we have every right to embody these feelings in order to gain a sense of our reality. When I think about coaching, this is an often overlooked aspect of reframing. We tend to think of reframing as purely mental. But when we actually sit and ask the question, what else is there? And we invite each of our different senses to the party to truly comment on what else is there, we get a full, gorgeous invitation to sink into the sensory adaptation of our own precious lives. Body awareness also focuses on a person's ability to correctly and confidently identify and engage with body sensations, as well as to link these to emotions. Research in this space has demonstrated a strikingly positive relationship between body awareness and well-being. Bodily experience influence our perception and judgment of a situation. So going back to Fredrickson's work on appraisal and threat, we're so conditioned, all of us, to be sourcing for appraisal and threat. Am I doing the right thing? Am I getting validation? If I'm being told that I'm wrong, or I'm afraid of being wrong, or I perceive that I'm wrong, guess what happens? Our limbic system freaks out. Our nervous system freaks out. The reptilian brain says, oh, this is a death feeling. And our bodies experience pain. So being able to identify, oh my goodness, I'm experiencing pain in my body. What's going on for me? This is likely because I'm having a moment where I'm afraid that I'm wrong, or someone has told me I'm wrong, or someone has told me that I have hurt them. Wow, what a striking response. How cool is it that my body is trying to keep me alive by giving me the death response right now? Body, I might not need the full death response right now, but I appreciate that it's here. And from there, we can move into that space that I described just a little bit ago of what else is there. And let our brain take a little bit of a vacation and let our other senses stop competing with each other and actually give them access to the conversation one by one. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? What do I smell? And let all of the different information about the full expanse of your lived reality come to the party. The brain is not the sole cognitive resource available that we have to solve problems. Our bodies and are perceptually guided through the world, and our bodies do so much of the work required to achieve our goals. So a lot of the time, this replaces the need for complex internal mental representations. It is fundamentally true that when we allow ourselves to feel, we get a lot of information versus forcing ourselves to think. So I'd like to offer that to you for your consideration as how do you want to use that information? Disembodiment is what I described when I was talking about my younger self and my relationship with eating disorders. This is indifference towards the body and an increasingly negative relationship with the body. This is often demonstrated by an increase in a client who might say, hey, I want to have some elective aesthetic procedures. You might notice a client talking about negative body image. Eating disorders are of course, need to be treated medically. And these show up all the time across genders. Self-harming, self-disappearing is a phenomenon in which we do not connect with our bodies and others in the real world. This phenomenon was supremely exacerbated by the pandemic when we were all behind screens for so long. And a group of humans that really has my heart when I think about disembodiment and the negative impacts are young people who went through high school and college during the time of the pandemic, who missed out on vital social exchanges and interactions and opportunities to become embodied in a way in which there was learning. So all of us have to turn to and care for each other as we're beginning to emerge into a post-pandemic. I don't even know if we can say it's post-pandemic. Everybody I know has COVID right now, landscape, and say, okay, what has to happen in order to move into a space where we connect with each other in real life more often, because disappearing is disconnecting us from our bodies, and we become ashamed of our bodies and ourselves, and then we project an image of a false or inauthentic or just not fully human self into the virtual space. And I want to give a caveat here. So it's normal to want to project your best self to the public. It's normal to want to say, hey, this is how I want the world to view me. This is who I'm trying on today. But what's missing from our current social construct is a fundamental understanding that behind all of that projection, there's a squishy, real, imperfect human with hopes and dreams and a family and friends who love them, and a human who messes up from time to time, and a human who cries, and a human who has pain, and a human who can see things and hear things and feel things and smell things and say things and do things. And that humanity is missing from the projection. And so I want to just make a call right now for all of us, when we look out into the world, when we look on social media, when we look at the way that our friends, our lovers, people in our lives are presenting themselves, that we also hold up the imperfect human who deserves to be so fully loved in absolute completeness, alongside of whatever show and tell is happening today in this person's evolution of how they are presenting themselves to the world. A positive psychology-based intervention that we can help our clients, our friends, or ourselves to use is to really start to make friends with the somatic sensations that you're experiencing and use them as a gauge to enhance your functioning. So that's that feeling that I'm talking about: hearing, seeing, the skin sensation, touch, taste, all of it, really getting to know your senses and let them join the party in terms of telling you what is going on in your life. What do we need to know to start working with our bodies as a way to achieve well-being? Well, touch is the first way that we learn to communicate from birth. This is arguably the sense that has the biggest impact on our well-being. Touch reduces distress, reduces cortisol levels and blood pressure. Touch increases serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. So with touch, I want to invite everybody who's listening right now to stop and give yourself a hug. I'm doing it with you as I record this podcast. I'm giving myself a huge hug, and oh my gosh, it feels good. You don't need another person to engage in positive touch to get all of those wonderful hormones pumping all on your own. Next, I'd like to invite you to think about something that you do need other people for, and that's the quality of your social interactions. This includes things like behavioral synchrony, coordination that occurs between individuals during a social interaction, where they have a similarity of manner, style, and rhythm. This creates a sense of oneness and increases compassion, right? We've all had that experience when you meet someone and you just really fall in love with them and you feel like, oh my goodness, this is my person. These are my people. I saw this happen at our Lumia retreat most recently. I get such a kick out of watching all of our coaches run around, learn each other, love each other, and fall into these synchronous patterns where they're like, oh my God, I can't stop talking. I can't stop being with you. I love you so much. And then everybody walks away with like 5 new best friends. It's amazing. So this takes a little bit of detective work in order to find the groups and organizations or places or humans who exist in your everyday world where you get this sense of synchrony. Because again, oneness, compassion increases the quality of your social interactions, and it relates right back to building that foundation of contentment in our everyday lives. This comes again from the work of Barbara Fredrickson, which is love. The neurobiological definition of love occurs in a momentary nature of experience between 2 individuals. Fredrickson describes it as a micro moment. So we're talking about synchronicity. We're talking about the way that people are really kind of vibing with each other. And then there's another lesser, more random aspect of love, which is a micro moment of agreed upon mutual care. This happens when you're having a really nice conversation with an Uber or Lyft driver. This happens when you're snuggling with your dog. This happens when you're holding the door for a neighbor or complimenting a stranger's shoes, as well as in those pockets of synchronicity. It requires eye contact, and it's available to all of us. And what does this do? It enhances through our sensory experience, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and gives us that boost towards that foundational feeling of pleasure and contentment. Positivity resonance is the sharing of positive emotions and behaviors, taking a walk with a friend, calling your mom. This brings mutual care to invest in each other's well-being. And what is imperative for positivity resonance to take place is your body and another person's body to participate in the connection. This is not love with a capital L as we express it in the Disney movies. This is love as it relates to the fabric that is built through our social connections, families, communities, nation, and world. According to Heffron, body-based interventions also includes a person's awareness to help find better ways for people to thrive in their body. The body itself can be used as a tool for healing and well-being. Dancing. Movement and emotions are linked. Folks express their emotions and thoughts through dance. You can do this in your kitchen. You can do this at a club. You can do this with friends. You can do dance movement therapy where an instructor can help you interpret your movements. You can do this through ecstatic dance. You can do this through daybreak or sober dancing. Dancing is so fundamental to us as humans, and it's something that not enough people engage in a regular basis throughout their lifespan. So everyone, let's dance. Another piece here is physical activity. Yes, dancing counts, but physical activity, writ large, reduces the risk of developing heart disease and stroke. It improves positive emotions, self-esteem, body image, cognitive functioning, psychological well-being, post-traumatic growth, flow, and purpose in life. Yes, that is the whole list of all of the things that physical activity does for you. And guess what? You need your body to do it. It also builds psychological and emotional strength in conjunction with the building of physical strength. So physical activity, moving your body, however that looks for you and works for you, please get into it because the increases and gains that you will get are so broad-based. I was never a yoga person. I'm going to be real. But as I grew into my experience as someone who is an adult with lots of stress and stressors in my life, I began to turn to yoga, and the literature supports this turning. Yoga promotes engagement with the body sensations and awareness. And yoga used as an intervention, especially an intervention that supports physical movement, can increase positive mood, energy, satisfaction, confidence, mindfulness, self-compassion, better sleep, well-being, a feeling of positive embodiment, and overall quality of life. Yoga has also been seen to decrease stress, symptoms of anxiety, anger, clinical depression, and it is something that is available to everyone. You just need yourself and a floor. So if you have any questions about yoga, please talk to perhaps one of our Lumia coaches who does that. They're all awesome, and there are so many great people to tap into. Next, something I want to get into is that heady area of achievement and how we talk to ourselves in that space, because the way that we talk to ourselves has a huge impact on the way that our bodies feel. Self-compassionate talk is associated with more stable feelings of self-worth than self-esteem. So what happens when we're able to talk to ourselves in self-compassionate ways? So here, remember when I was talking about how we present ourselves to the world, but behind that presentation, there's really this jumbled, squishy, weirdo human with all sorts of junk going on? That's all of us. Literally all of us have doubts, have fear, have pain, have a deep forest of our interior. And this is where self-compassion comes into the fore, is to normalize the very weird experience of being a human in our time. Self-compassion is a far better motivator than self-criticism. The driving force is love and not fear. Love makes us feel confident and secure, and fear makes us feel insecure and jittery. When we think about the biology of self-compassion, it's warm, soft, gentle, caring, and kind. It gives you feelings like that self-hug, oxytocin, I am safe. Oxytocin is released to stroke your own arm or give yourself that hug, which can trigger oxytocin in ourselves. Humans don't have the ability to suppress negative emotions, so we can't will them away. If we try to suppress them, they turn up elsewhere like physical pain. So some of the things that I like to turn to for moments of self-soothing are mantras. This is a great way to engage in self-compassion. And as we close out today, I'm going to leave you with two mantras, thinking about ourselves, our lives, our bodies, thinking about the social construction that has been put upon us, thinking about how hard this work is to gain awareness of our own lives, who we are, where we've been, and then to push forward into the future, especially with ourselves and our bodies, of who do I want to be, and what might an experience of peace look like. Also taking into account the fact that our sensations, our senses compete with each other, and inviting more of our senses into the party to give us aspects of our lives that support reframing. What else is there, right? So let's meet ourselves right now with compassion. And what I'd like to put forth for you from Kristen Neff is a beautiful mantra. This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a natural part of life. I may be kind to myself in this moment. I may give myself the compassion that I need. I'll repeat it. This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a natural part of life. I may be kind to myself in this moment. I may give myself the compassion I need. As you're taking all of this in and wrestling with it, please think about how you're feeling in your body. I hope that our time today brought you some peace, brought you some excitement, and brought you joy. And I will see you all next time. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to lumiacoaching.com/everything. Explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a bold community to do it with.
Lumia is ready to equip you with the tools, training, and community you will need to reach your goals. If you're ready to build a unique coaching business on your own terms while making an impact on the world at large, Lumia is the next bold step in your coaching journey. That's lumiacoaching.com/everything.
And hey, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it.